everyone, I'm Alastair McPhee, the Recruitment Training Officer and Managing Editor at Q Review Print, speaking to the blind. And I'm joined this evening by June Grindley. June, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm June Grindley and I'm the founder, director and autism practitioner at Creatovators CIC.
So what exactly is Creatovators? What is it you do?
So Creatovators is a social enterprise, and we work with people on the autistic spectrum and their families. We help them and support them, and we do some training for people as well in autism awareness and different things like that.
Fantastic. Now, what sort of services do you offer within your organisation?
A number of different services. We do one-to-one sessions with individual clients to help them with their social skills and communication skills, and to integrate into society. And we work with their families as well around that. We also do a monthly play scheme, and that's for the whole family. It's not just for the person on the spectrum or the child on the spectrum. We started it basically because there weren't very many places around to help people on the autistic spectrum, and there was a demand for it. And we thought we would maybe get to the point where we had enough volunteers to be able to take the kids ourselves, but because we were a group of families. But what actually happened was that we found that the parents were supporting each other, and that became a very very important part of the play scheme. So that's why it's for the whole family. We also do what's called Lego-based therapy sessions. So that's Lego-based therapy, and we do those for the kids. So that's basically our team work with the kids on their social skills.
So the Lego-based work is not for the adults as well?
We haven't done an adult group, but you never know. You never know.
I must admit, when I saw that you did the Lego based, I had this image that we might be building, like a skyship trooper or something, or a space trooper or something. that could have been fun, actually.
Yeah, we have actually done it online, and it's been quite fun. So it's good when we do that, and we do some training and some one-to-one consultations with adults and parents as well, and quite a lot of informal chats and coffees and things.
Fantastic. So why did you get involved in this sort of sphere?
So my son was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome when he was 4.5. And at the time I was a sole trader working with businesses and other people on active listening skills and how to really listen to somebody. And I was also doing some active listening appointments. So that's kind of non-directive counselling type stuff. And again, doing that within businesses and in different areas in life. And I just knew the importance of listening and communication. And so I thought, well, autism is a communication disorder. So how can I teach my child how to listen and communicate effectively? So I went back to uni and retrained and did an MSc in autism, and saw also that, as I said before, there was a real demand. There weren't an awful lot of autism specific services. So I thought, I've gained quite a lot of information. I have had previously worked with somebody with Asperger's in a former life. Right. So yeah, and what became just a little bit part of the business that I was working in, it suddenly took arms and legs and became the main thing. And yeah.
And again, when you say that you yourself, you got involved partly because of family circumstances, but I think for me, one of the things I'm struggling with in working with people with autism is such a vast array of, different situations and different problems that they may or may not have. It's a kind of a bit like visual impairment, in that, just because you're visually impaired doesn't mean you go about with a guide dog and a white stick. There is a vast array. I mean, where would you say that autism actually starts? What are the sort of most basic versions of autism or Asperger's from your experience?
So do you mean what's
the
What's
first
the most general
educators.
stuff?
Yes, yeah. What's the? I mean, we've had,
What's
for example, on our team, we've had people who are fairly high functioning when it comes to having autism. I know they identify as having autism. One young man in particular springs to mind whose life is basically a flowchart. You know, as long as you give him clear instruction, he is fine and gets through. But we've also had people, well, I wouldn't say the other end, but towards the other end of the spectrum, who've basically, you know, had difficulty communicating at the most basic of levels, but still come in and still take an active involvement in what we do.
Yeah, it's a very vast spectrum, and people on the spectrum themselves now. In fact, Rebecca Burgess has put it as a circle rather than a line
Mm-hmm.
that it's on, and that's because different people have different experiences of what the condition is for them. So generally speaking, it does affect your social communication, so how you interact socially with people and in the environment socially. It affects your communication itself. So as you said, some people struggle verbally to speak, whereas other people can seem very eloquent. But they wouldn't necessarily, those who are quite eloquent wouldn't necessarily pick up on the social cues, which is the social difficulties that they have. So they might not pick up on particular things like tones of voice
Yes.
or gestures, you know, or facial expressions, things like that. And also, as you said, some people is a bit like, as long as they've got a routine and they're quite rigid in that, then yeah, they need the plans and they need the routine and the structure to feel that they can function properly. Others can be a bit more flexible. And in fact, some people on the spectrum, they can get quite a lot of the social nuances, but they have high anxiety.
Yes.
So something called pathological demand avoidance. So that comes under the umbrella of autism within this country anyway. There's quite a few arguments about a lot of some of the stuff that you're asking about. So it's not clearly defined in each place. But
Right.
those are kind of, yeah, those are the main things, although there's also sensory issues that come under that umbrella as well. So hypersensitive to hearing or hyposensitive, over or under sensitive to hearing, taste and textures, the way you feel things on your skin, just all the senses. Some smell can be heightened. Something called synesthesia, where
I've
the
heard of that,
senses,
yes.
yeah, it gets confused. So you can see something and see a number and it's a color as well, you know. So yeah, or you can hear certain things and smell at the same time, certain, and some people have said that sounds wonderful. Well, yeah, it does, unless you smell something not very nice with a number, you know, associated with a number. Yeah, it's really interesting actually. It's an interesting field to study, and it's ongoing, as I say, and I personally feel that we've only got the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more that we
Going on
need to
around
learn.
about.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, for somebody with autism, or even somebody involved in the field of autism, being in lockdown, as we're all currently talking about, COVID-19's lockdown, I mean, how has that affected you? How has it affected your family? And how has it affected your business?
So personally, it's affected me in many different ways. I mean, I have my ups and downs. We've kind of got into a routine as a family. My son, who's on the spectrum, he's 18 now, and we've worked with him a lot throughout the years, and he can be flexible. We have kind of a holiday routine when he's around. My husband works from home, and I'm out and about a bit, but I have an office in the house as well. So my husband and I are both in the office. So in some ways, it's a bit like Andrew has been on holiday. You know, when he came home from school, you know, he just kind of went into his holiday mode, which worked quite well. We also have a daughter, and she's kind of a bit used to to us working, although generally in the school holidays I'll take a bit more time off,
Yourself, yeah.
But they've had to both cope with the fact that I'm actually been working my normal hours this time.
And has your
Andrew,
son had to study as well? Has he been sent
no,
information from
he's
school?
actually in transition, so
Right.
we've not had to worry too much about that.
Uh-huh.
He's just finished 6th year, so he's in transition. So the difficulty's been to try and keep that momentum going. He's hoping to do an employability course with Enable, although we haven't had definite confirmation of whether that's going ahead or not yet. It's meant to be in August, and we were waiting for dates and venue, but we haven't had that. So there's still a bit of uncertainty around. I would have to say Andrew's supported by a personal assistant at the moment, and again, that's all kind of in transition. So there has been a bit of uncertainty around that and whether it's going to happen after September or not. Initially, it looked like it might finish at the end of June, but again, all that kind of uncertainty, and it did unsettle him after probably about eight or 9 weeks. You know, you were starting to see that he was getting anxious and unsettled. Even though he kind of created his own routine, he could see he was becoming more abrupt, and we can tell the trigger points and know that, okay, we've got to put more support in just now. But it was just, I think it was just a week or two after that that we were able to meet up with one other person, socially distance. So we just said, okay, Andrew, you can go with your personal assistant, and as long as you socially distance. So that's made a big difference, and we've actually learned that support is really important for him, and he really, really does need it.
So in terms of what our sessions, as you know, you're one of the presenters as part of our Wellbeing Festival, as we're calling it, which has been funded by the Wellbeing Fund, part of the Scottish Government's funding package to support charities during the lockdown process. And obviously, you know, we're presenting it as one-to-one sessions, and I think it's 5 sessions that we're offering to 5 people. But one of the things that's coming out from that is that it's not just, it doesn't have to be 5 individual people doing 5 sessions. There is ways around that, and you're being quite adaptable to it. And I think one of the things that's coming out for me is that talking to some others, they are realizing that there is a sort of commonality of problems at the moment, and obviously you're well placed to maybe have access to resources that might be able to support anyone. So perhaps some of the sessions you'd be able to offer could be around that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We have changed the way we've been working, because it was very much face to face, and we were on social media, but not an awful lot. We were beginning to look into it a bit more, and just posting things that we find useful. But I've actually started to do a lot more online. So my one-to-one sessions with individual clients have gone on to Zoom, and a lot of those have finished for the summer now, because we tend to be with younger kids, so they'll have a break over the summer, which is really necessary for them, which gives me a bit of time to do this type of thing with yourself. And yeah, we can do it, you know, with the family, or we can do it just, you know, 2 or 3 maybe together. It doesn't need to be just a one-to-one session, and I can do it during the day. I don't have to just do it in the evening. It's just I think you indicated that evenings were probably better for some of the folk.
Well, some of the people that are responding are saying, well, some of the people who are involved in the Q and Review Friends group have indicated to us that, you know, they're still working during the day, so might only be available in the evenings. I think one of the other practical issues around using Zoom in other situations is, I don't know about you, but you mentioned your husband is working from home as well. My wife is working from home, so we organised tonight's recording deliberately so as, you know, we wouldn't lose any internet, because it seems to be 9 o'clock in the morning, everybody's sort of checking their Facebook, their emails, everything sort of grinds to a halt. And I think there's also an element of, because we're all online, there is a risk that sometimes if it's not done in the evenings, you're maybe losing internet connection. But you have also clearly indicated you're very happy to do sessions in the daytime if you get enough notice. And I think that's why we've sort of been encouraging people through this interview and the other publicity that we've been doing around the Wellbeing Festival to basically drop us an email at the information@QArdenReview.com email address, indicating that they're interested, and that way we will pass the information about, or the details about the person who's interested directly to yourselves, June, and that way you and the individual or the group of people can then organise what they want to do. And I think that could be quite valuable, particularly because I think for me, even if the sessions are around the fact that there's 2 or 3 people within Q and Review who don't know much about autism. Again, just having a coffee and a chat, and maybe even a virtual slice of cake, we might be able to sit down and have a good discussion around what autism is actually about, and how we as I wouldn't say necessarily say able-bodied, but we as non-autistic people could maybe be interacting. So if there's a group of people maybe interested around that, perhaps we could lead a discussion on that as well. So if people want to get in touch with us at information@QArdenReview.com, we could maybe organise something around that. What do you think of that idea?
Yeah, no, that's a great idea, because that is obviously part of what we do as well. I think a lot of the families that we work with wanted us to be able to say to society, this is what you need to do to be a bit more inclusive, and in many ways you don't have to do anything particularly hard. It's just simple ways. Yeah.
Well, I mean, in particular, I was also asking you whether I like the idea of the virtual cake. So far it has worked. We actually had one of our boys who does have autism logged into a meeting we had. We had a virtual breakfast the other morning, a virtual brunch, and he logged in as Gordon Ramsay. So he got my hopes up, but they were dashed, unfortunately. I will then say that one of the other volunteers did come round with some home baking and leave it on my doorstep that afternoon. So, good one. So thanks to the volunteer who did that. Your baking's delicious, by the way, if you're listening. So basically, June, what we're talking about is you're extremely flexible, but yes, you do have a time scale that we've got to work within. There is a certain number of sessions that are available. So again, now that we've gone to the trouble of buying a corporate Zoom account where we can have up to 100 people taking part in any discussion, that might be pushing it a bit. I think realistically we might be talking about 4 or 5 people at any one time, but it would be a great way for people to find out a bit more about autism. So anyone who does want to take part, I'll be able to pick up the email at information@QArdenReview.com. And as I say, when you do that, if you put in the subject line of the email the sort of thing you might be interested in, and then in the body a wee bit more detail, we'll pass that on to June, and June can then contact you directly. So hopefully, June, we'll be able to make full use of the Wellbeing Festival as an opportunity to raise awareness around the autistic spectrum and autism in general. And hopefully you'll also learn something about visual impairment at the same time. So June Grindley of Creatovators, thank you very, very much for taking part in tonight's chat. And hopefully the 90 plus members of the Q and Review Friends group will respond in their droves, and we'll be able to make this an excellent opportunity for us all. June.
No, thank you, Alastair. That's great. Thank you very much.
Take care to now. Thanks, June.
And you too. Bye.